I've made a mistake. I don't have any room for these books. They don't fit anywhere. There's books all over the floor. There's also no room in my bank account. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do my May haul. So this is every book that I purchased in the month of May. Purchased or accumulated or acquired in some way. Some of these I didn't actually pay money for. The reason I said I made a mistake is because remember last month's haul video where I bought 12 books? So for the month of April I bought 12 books and I was like, wow, that was so many books. Let's see if I can buy even more in May. That was a joke. That was not an actual goal that I set out to accomplish. But here's the thing. I doubled it. Yep, you heard that right. In the month of May, I acquired 24 new books. I'm gonna cry. Whatever, let's just jump into it. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell icon so you know when I upload new videos. I upload 3 days a week. I don't know what hand position this is. Just like last month, we're gonna start with my book of the month subscription box. Just get that one out of the way. I was not thrilled with May's selections for book of the month. I don't even remember now what they were, so I decided instead of skipping like a normal person would and not, you know, spending the money for May, to just pick some old books. The first one being The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I don't know how to say that last name. This book has been out for quite some time. A lot of people have read it and loved it. It's a thriller and I decided to just pick it up. I don't know if I'll actually read it. The second book I picked for book of the month I'm more likely to read because it's a horror book, and it's White Horse by Erica T. Worth. Okay, so for the rest of the books that I have to show you, I want to say it's not my fault that I bought them all. At Indigo, every so often, like every 6 months or so, they do this thing called employee appreciation, where they show their appreciation for employees such as myself by giving us an extra large discount on books for 1 weekend only. Normally that's a time to go ahead and pre-order stuff that's not out yet and, you know, stock up. I decided to use it as an excuse to buy every book in the store. I've divvied these up into little piles of like related books. Let's just start with a book I've already shown you. It's a book that I was gonna get even without the discount, and I've talked about it on the channel already, and it's amazing. 5 stars. The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Kah. I don't need to talk about this book again. Just reference my previous video on it and you'll know everything that I have to say about it. I also just talked about the book The Whistling by Rebecca Netley. The Whistling. I won't never not do that. Never not do that. This was featured as well in my May wrap up, and I had a lot of people actually in the comments saying that they've added it to their TBR. So yeah, check it out. A book that I grabbed that I hadn't heard of prior to meeting my brand new boss at work. She recommended a book to me because we kind of like the same sort of books, weird, spooky, strange things. So she got me to pick up A Touch of Jen by Beth Morgan. The cover is something. They actually had this in both the hardcover and the paperback, but the paperback was black and the hardcover is pink, and I just really like the pink. Also, look at this very sparkly spine. This is just so fun. A very contemporary thriller that I'm looking forward to reading. Number 7 was actually a gift, so not a book that I spent money on. Yay! I already showed this off as well because apparently I like to just repeat my content a lot. But if you watched my May wrap up, you'll know that I finished reading A House with Good Bones, which I rated 5 stars, and I received the broken binding special edition copy of A House with Good Bones with the pink sprayed edges and the really, really pretty end papers. Book number 8 I am so excited for. It's an ARC that I received from Orbit. It's The Sun in the Void by Gabriela Romero Lacruz. This is a South American inspired epic fantasy. This has moved pretty high up on my TBR because it is an ARC of something that I'm really excited for. I don't think I've read a lot of South American inspired fantasy. I can think of like plenty of other places that have inspired books that I've read, but I can't really think of too many South American ones. So this is exciting. The author is from Venezuela, by the way. I don't read a ton of nonfiction. It's just not something I'm super into, but I did pick up 2 nonfiction books that semi-interested me. So the first one is The Wager by David Grann. This is a story about a ship called the Wager. I really don't know too much about it, but I do love ships. It's a tale of shipwreck, mutiny, and murder. And yeah, I'll get to it eventually. I just like to learn about boats and whatnot. And David Gran is apparently a very fantastic author. I had to sneeze. Bless me. The second nonfiction book that I picked up, totally randomly, I saw it at like a Winners or something, and it's this behind the scenes of John Wick book. I love John Wick. I haven't actually seen the fourth one yet, so I should probably watch it before reading this book, but why not? There's actually a third nonfiction book that I acquired this month. I don't have any plans to read this, but here's the thing. Indigo, the store I work at, offered free copies of Spare by Prince Harry to any colleagues that wanted to read it and promote it. Obviously, I took up that offer because free books are free books. Am I gonna read it and promote it? No, I'm not. I'm not gonna read it, but I have heard good things. People think the writing's really great, so this is me officially promoting Spare. Go buy it. Okay, nonfiction's out of the way. I want to get back into the more exciting stuff. I grabbed a number of new releases that came out in May. A highly anticipated read in the fantasy realm. You can actually already see it in the frame. I didn't realize. Anyways, it's The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I haven't read much Mark Lawrence. In fact, I've literally only read one Mark Lawrence, and that was Prince of Thorns, which I wasn't a big fan of. We can talk about that later if you want to fight with me about it. But apparently, The Book That Wouldn't Burn is really, really good, and it seemed silly to pass that up. Two different dragon-y books came out in May. One of them has been all over the internet and incredibly popular. The other one, not quite so much, but it's actually the one I'm more excited for. So the one that you know, that you've seen, is Fourth Wing. I purely bought Fourth Wing out of peer pressure. It's literally everywhere. I know that you know that. I also bought it because it is beautiful. This is fantastic. It's like a special edition, but not. This is just the regular edition with the sprayed edges that are gorgeous. I know I'm gonna at least give this one a try because everyone is reading it, and 90% of what I've seen is really good, and the other 10% is like, this book is way overhyped and it's just romantasy, which is romance and fantasy, which is really not my favorite genre. So we're gonna give it a shot at some point, but don't be surprised if I DNF it. The dragon book that I'm actually excited for though, which came out the exact same week as Fourth Wing, poor Laura Lamb, it's Dragonfall. I think this cover is fantastic. I would love to get a tattoo of this cover, but I haven't read the book, so I'm not gonna do that. Dragons are worshipped as old gods in this book, so it's sort of humans with dragon-y magic versus old angry dragons, and we love that. Laura Lamb is primarily known for her science fiction. I've actually got one of her books just out of frame right here called Goldilocks. That's why she's L.R. Lamb. But don't be fooled, this is Laura Lamb. Speaking of dragons, but also not at all, Christopher Paolini, the author of the Eragon series, has a new installment to his fractal verse, which is not a thing. He's trying really hard to make it a thing. He's got, this is like book 2 in the fractal verse, and I'm like, no, it's just a series. It's not a universe. It's not the Cosmere. The other one is To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. I haven't read either of them yet, but you know, when a big author comes out with a big new release, you pick it up. This one's a bit controversial though, because this cover is AI generated. We're not going to talk about that in this video, but my stance, very briefly, is that no, pay humans to design book covers. Thank you very much. Probably the #1 biggest release of May, other than Fourth Wing, I guess, is R.F. Kuang's Yellowface. I picked this up the day we got it in stock. Haven't read it yet, haven't dived into it. I've heard that it's not R.F. Kuang's best work, but it is obviously of a more personal piece than one of her epic fantasies like Babel or The Poppy War. So I would say probably I'm gonna go into it, you know, with that in mind and read it for the story that it is, not reading it as though it's supposed to be some incredible epic from R.F. Kuang. The cover feels really nice. Yellowface is a very intense look at who is allowed to tell what stories and representation and own voice stories, which scares the crap out of me as an aspiring author who is white. I think I want to do a whole video on that at some point actually, because, you know, to go on a little small tangent here, the main character in what I'm working on right now is Asian, and I am not, but I don't think that I should have to only tell stories about white people for the rest of my life. Not saying that's the lesson of Yellowface. I haven't read it, and that would be crazy, but it's a conversation, you know? I've entirely lost count of what book I'm on because I haven't been counting. Another big release in May, new from Angeline Booley, is Warrior Girl Unearthed. She wrote Firekeeper's Daughter. These are both YA Indigenous inspired stories. It has a very fantastic cover and the cutest little naked hardback underneath. I haven't read the book, so I don't know who this guy is, but I want to know. And if anything happens to him. Empire of Wild by Sherry Dimlin has been re-released with brand new covers and art, so the old copies are on major sales everywhere. So I bought this for $4, I think. It'll take me a little bit to actually get to it, but this is another Indigenous inspired story. I entirely forgot that I even ordered this, but I ordered in Tithe by Holly Black. It's one of her urban fantasy fairy tales. I haven't read a lot of Holly Black, and by a lot I mean any. I've never read Holly Black, despite owning a bunch of her books, but this one was recommended to me specifically by my friend Evelyn, who you've met. So I ordered it in. The sequel to Little Thieves by Margaret Owen came out. That's Painted Devils. The cover is fantastic, just like the first one. And then I also picked up the third book in V.E. Schwab's middle grade series, middle grade being for ages 9 to 12. I don't own the first two and haven't read them, but we had this in my store and I think that the hardcover is really beautiful, so I did grab it. I plan on picking up the rest of the series, and I actually plan on reading it, believe it or not. I like to read middle grade and YA if there is a spook factor to it, and there definitely is for this. Because it's V.E. Schwab, of course there is. Only 6 books left, okay? One of them hasn't actually arrived yet. I think it's gonna take a little bit of time. It said shipping would be like 1 to 2 months for whatever reason. So I bought The Shadow Casket, which is the sequel to Chris Whitting's The Ember Blade. I have not read The Ember Blade yet. I've read the first couple of chapters, but she's thick. One of my favorite books from 2022 was Pennyblade by J.L. Warad. The sequel is now out. It's called The Keep Within. I ordered this in and it just arrived right before filming, actually. So I think these covers are really cool. These are queer, violent, grimdark books. They're really excellent and underrated, so I highly recommend picking these up. A release that sort of went under the radar this month, I would say, is Scarlet by Genevieve Cogman. This is a French Revolution vampire fantasy. It's not romance though. It is fantasy. This is the American cover. I personally think the UK cover is much better, but this one was just more readily available to me, so I picked this one up. Another big fantasy release that totally went under the radar, and I think because of how meh the cover is, James Islington, who wrote the Lycanius trilogy, has a new book out called The Will of the Many. When we got this into the store, I honestly forgot it was coming out, and I only realized it was what it was because of James Islington's name. Because when we got this in, I was like, is this like Greek mythology? What is this? Is it general fiction? Is it non-fiction? Nope. It's kind of like a Roman-inspired dark academia, spy, betrayal thingy. That's gonna be my official blurb for it. Anyways, I'm really not doing it justice. I swear to God, I'm sorry. But it sounds really, really cool. So I'm excited to dive right into it. Oh, we're on the last book. I didn't even realize. I've got so many books on the floor. I was like, did I even talk about them all? The last one was something that I've seen going around on Bookstagram quite a bit. Not like a huge release, not a very well-known release, but it is from Orbit, so a lot of people have been picking it up. And it's The Sword Defiant by Gareth Hanrahan. I just like saying that last name. I don't think I'm pronouncing it right, but I think it's Hanrahan. This seems like a very familiar story, you know, sentient magic sword situation, which we see a lot, but not in a bad way. It's a used trope because it's great. This just feels very classic to me. I don't know. I'm excited, and I love the tagline, "The sword cares not who it cuts." That is bomb. I love it. Those were all 24 books that I purchased in May. I spent a lot of money, and I regret none of them. I was gonna say some of them, but you know what? I'm standing by it. I don't regret a thing. You all know that book buying and book reading are 2 entirely different hobbies. So that's my excuse. My greatest, most favoritist hobby is buying books. Coming up in the next little bit, I'm going to start filming the process of building my new dream library downstairs in my house. So the room itself is like twice as big as the one I'm in right now. I'm gonna have pretty new shelves, lots of space for activities, and a whole new background for my videos. So stay tuned for that. I'm so happy. And I'll not have books on the floor anymore, most likely, until I run out of space again, which will 100% happen. And that's it. The battery on my camera is about to die. So I'm gonna say before I go, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell icon so you know when I upload new videos. I upload 3 days a week. I love you guys. Goodbye.